18 years of respect, $2.99 Apple Music, an Unwelcome app, and another Severance promo. This is MacVoices. Today's edition of MacVoices is supported by the MacVoices Dispatch, our weekly newsletter that keeps you up with everything MacVoices is doing. From our published episodes to Chuck's other appearances to special events and more, subscribe at macvoices.com/newsletter and stay fully informed so you don't miss a thing. The next one is not a big surprise because we've talked about this apparently for 18 years in a row that Apple continues to be the world's most admired company. 18 consecutive years.
Now, who else are they going to give it to?
Well, okay, I hadn't thought about it that way, Guy. I just think it's really interesting with all the criticisms and all the things that Apple allegedly does wrong, according to the analysts and the pundits, and sometimes us too.
And the EU.
They're still there. Oh, yeah, well, the EU, yeah. That they're still, they're still out there. So they maintain their image regardless of what people say about them or, how we feel about them in any given moment. I mean, it's great for the stock price. It's good for the brand. What can I say?
I read something, maybe I heard on a podcast now I think about it, that Apple it seems to be having some struggles. We can get into the whether the Apple Vision Pro is a success or their AR glasses that they allegedly have rolled back on, even though they never said that they were rolling forward on it.
Car.
So the car too, which of course they never said they were doing it. Just everybody just heard about it. So, but I think the thing that's interesting is that they haven't figured out what that next big thing is. But I'm going to contend that they have a great team. Great senior management team that I think is really from the outside looking in a big organization. It's fascinating to look at. They don't have the typical military style corporate hierarchy. They kind of do something that's a little bit more fluid, and I can't elaborate on that, even though it's not the Tim Cook at the top and then the next level. They do something a little bit more dynamic, and I think that does them well. But they're doing, the counter to this is some people are saying that, they really don't. Nobody ever leaves; they just get reassigned. You look at Luca Maestri, the former CFO; he just kind of shifted over, Schiller, I think, is another example of that. So they're still around. They still have some capacity, but it's an interesting organization, and I think that when you're brought into the same conversations as say a Berkshire Hathaway, who's what I can look it up, but their stock is $600,000 a share. I mean, that's, and being in that same category, it's a great organization. They've really managed it well, and I'll give Tim a lot of credit for that. But I think there are others in the organization that kind of keep that ship upright.
Well, part of the problem that Apple faces is there isn't anything that we know of yet that is the next big thing, but nobody else is doing it either. It's like everybody's holding their breath, waiting to see what Apple is going to do. And the problem that they have is the big idea guy, Steve Jobs, is dead. And, without a visionary who is probably wasn't the best administrator, but he was the guy who knew what to say no to. So you had a organization that was just coming up with all these great ideas and throwing them on the Steve Jobs wall to see what sticks. And once that wall went away, everybody was like, well, we've got the iPod and that's doing really great. We've got the iPhone and that's doing really great. We're not selling as many Macs as we used to, but that's okay because all these other things are coming up and we're doing great with services. So they're kind of sitting back on their laurels at the same time that everybody wants to see that next big thing. And I don't think it's going to be wearables. I don't think it's going to be a great big headset that's on your head. And I don't really care who in Meta makes one that's 1/5 the cost of whatever Apple comes out. It just doesn't seem like that's going to be the next big thing, that there's going to be something else. I just don't know what it is. And I wonder if anybody does at this point.
Guy, I might push back just a little bit.
Sure.
Do we need a next big thing? I mean, the Apple Watch has really dominated the wearables market, and they continue to bring new value propositions to it. Apple got into streaming services, and whether you think that they're doing a great job or not,
they are.
I mean, you can't argue. They may not be capturing the mass audiences, but they're delivering a great product,
right?
And I just wonder if instead of just one next big thing, if we're not just seeing the evolution of a lot of smaller things,
of great little things. Yeah, I know, and I'm not disagreeing with you, Chuck. And it's not necessarily me or you or anyone in the general public that's expecting these next big things. It's shareholders that are going, well, where's the value? The stock isn't rising because that next big thing isn't there. And I don't think that for the most part, Apple is all that concerned about what the next big thing is going to be. I think that they're doing what it is that they do, and they're refining the processes that they've already got released. They're making better and better, M chips for the Macs and better A chips for, I don't think phones for much longer, but certainly for lower end iPods and all the rest of it. And they're doing great. They're doing exactly what it is they need to do to grow the company, whether or not analysts and stock people can see that or not.
Well, they're playing yet another series of long games,
right? And if you don't like it, don't buy their stock. That's really what it comes down to.
Yeah. Anybody else want in on this? Okay, I'll take that as not. Then, in that case, is anybody going to take advantage, or maybe you already are a subscriber to Apple Music, but they're offering a $2.99 for 6 months, which seems like one heck of a deal.
Yes,
I already got Apple One.
Yeah, me too.
I'm locked in.
Yeah.
Yep, same here.
So this is not going to drive a lot of revenue in the short term, but will it bring people over? I mean, $3 is pretty good to test out something. And if you are already in the Apple ecosystem, will this pull you in farther, especially if you're in one of those other services? Marty?
Yeah, I see these things and I go, yay, Apple. And then I realize I've been paying for this for a long time. And it would be nice for the dedicated users to get a bone thrown at them for something else. Just once. It's like, I don't mind subsidizing these kind of things because I think the more people that come to the party, the better it is. But I keep seeing these and it's like, it doesn't really affect me. Wish they would throw me a bone.
Yeah, why don't you do a cut rate price on the Apple One service for 6 months? Take $4 off of the already low price of the Apple One service, and include that for people that have already signed up for it. I agree, Marty. Give us a little bit of something.
Yeah, but you guys know that's not the way it works.
I know.
I mean, come on.
We're already hooked.
And the other thing, okay, says the insurance guy. Dave Webb, back me up on this, would you please?
Yeah.
You're not subsidizing anything. You paid for access to the service.
Yes.
So if you used it, for 24/7 for that month, great. If you used it for 2 songs, great. But you were
So
paying for
I'm
the
just going
access.
to have to live off the joy, the Schadenfreude of watching new people get addicted to it, is what you're telling me.
Yeah.
Well, that or buy Apple stock, and then you can enjoy that.
Yeah, done that. So
Okay, we'll see. And then kick back and enjoy.
Assuming it works.
Brian?
I was just going to comment. It's kind of a little bit commented already about just the addiction angle of it. You get used to a service. When it's $2.99. What is it for 6 months? 6 months is enough time, I think, where it becomes a regular part of your life. You're used to it. You build playlists. You share them with friends. When those 6 months expire, you may or may not realize that you're getting charged $10.99 on the 7th month. And then by then you're already, connected with other people with the music. And, it just becomes part of your monthly subscriptions. And there, and how many different subscriptions a lot of folks have where you don't even realize it, just, if you don't analyze the credit card bill, you don't have the notification come in, those types of things. So.
It's the Columbia Music House all over again.
Come on, God. That's a blast from the past.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's what subscriptions are to a large degree. And if you don't manage them, it's your fault.
Yeah.
And we've all gotten caught by something that slipped by, and it's like you get the receipt in the mail or you get the receipt in the credit card or whatever. And it's like, oh, darn, but it's the way it works. Dave?
Yeah, I think it's going to entice new subscribers to look at this maybe a little closer. $2.99 for 6 months. That's a pretty good deal. Apple did this when Apple Music came out years ago, when they're often like was 1 or 2, 3 months free for a bit of time to get people going on it. They haven't done this in quite some time. I think the other thing that's going to drive it is the Super Bowl. The Super Bowl is going to have with Kendrick Lamar performing that. That's going to. I think that's Apple's ploy here to have. Hey, we can give you 6 months for $2.99, but then you can hear what all this music is that Kendrick is playing, and then some, because they see the Super Bowl performance that he's going to do next Sunday here. So I think that's probably some of the things that's going to stand out for this, and why not? Apple Music and Spotify are one too. They're battling for years, and this, if anything, this is going to help Apple.
Mm-hmm. Marty, you said in our private chat a throw down to Spotify. Mark Fuccio in the YouTube chat says today Spotify is a better investment than Apple, which is shocking. I'm quoting Mark, shocking from me. I trash talk Spotify a lot, but they've gotten their business under control and are making profits. And yeah, okay, so they've got one quarter now that they've got a very short track record here of being profitable. Meanwhile, they've thrown a whole lot of stuff at the wall to see what sticks, and they've whined a whole lot. We'll see if it continues.
Yeah, I just know a lot of Apple users, iPhone users, who also are using Spotify and not Apple Music. The people that I know who are using Apple Music are like my daughter, who does more classical stuff and, wants a broader range of, so she'll do the Apple classical piece of that. Yeah, it surprises me how, there you've got Apple Music right on your phone, but you're going to an outside service to get it. So this could be a way to say $2.99, you get to play with it for 6 months, and maybe we'll bring you over to the Apple side of it.
I'll throw another comment about Mark's comment relating Spotify and they're doing good business. It doesn't necessarily mean the interfaces I don't like the interface on Spotify very much. I think I find Apple Music to be a little better in my opinion anyway. But there's, like you said, a lot of people out there who do like Spotify over Apple Music. So it's everybody's choice here.
Marty, I'm intrigued by. I get the classical comment part. That makes perfect sense. But I'm a little surprised that I guess that she would gravitate toward Apple Music for that reason, because I'm not a classical music person, but my understanding is that the classical music experience is not as good as it should be, and whether that's going to improve is anybody's guess. But so I'm intrigued by the fact that that's what drives her to Apple Music.
Well, they have a whole separate branch now that's just classical music, and for users who want that, it's easier to do. I think the Spotify attraction, although David doesn't like the interface, I would agree with him. I'm not a big fan of Apple's interface on their music. I think it's they throw me all the things that I should be listening to instead of finding me the stuff that I want. I think Spotify is attractive because the way people can curate their music on there and put together things a lot easier than they can on Apple Music in terms of playlists and such. So that's why I think there's the attraction to that. And then you can do a lot of the sharing, very similar to Apple, but I think people, particularly younger folks, have gotten into Spotify, and the word of mouth got other people into Spotify, and that's where they're doing their music stuff.
A couple things from the chat room. Barry says, I, like Web, have an Apple One subscription. Great, Barry. That's, that sort of comes back to guys. I know he was only partially jesting, but the idea that, if you pull people into Apple One, maybe you get to hold them there a lot more than just if you had Apple Music. And then we have a new commenter. Dan says, musicians despise Spotify if many social media posts are to be believed.
Well, most of them don't get anything back from digital. Excuse me. They don't get much back because they signed those rights away. So that all goes back to whoever owns those rights.
Right. Another one of those. We'll see. We'll see if this makes a significant difference or not.
I was just going to say, I agree with David. I think this is all timing to coincide with the Super Bowl and their sponsorship of the halftime show, which they've done now for 3 or 4 years, at least that I can recall.
Yes.
So I think you're right. I think this is all timing and trying to get more people in. Because remember, once you buy into the 6-month trial, it automatically, unless you cancel it, it automatically renews at $10.99 a month after that. So.
It's like the Hotel California.
Yeah.
And I have to tell you that I give Dave credit. I never even thought about that.
Yeah.
Because yes, I know Apple's sponsoring the halftime show. I could have told you who was playing because I just have no interest. So,
right.
And
great. He just came off of a huge win with the Grammys on Sunday. Yeah. So
yeah.
So the album of the year. And
who is it this year?
Kendrick Lamar.
Moving on, in a very awkward transition that I'm about to make.
Depends which one you're going to go to here.
Yeah, Apple responds after being forced to approve porn app on EU iPhones due to the DMA.
It's a good app.
I told you it was an awkward transition.
Wait.
Yeah.
Did you go to the EU and download it?
No, you just use.
Where do you think Gamut's at?
And you can.
That's right.
Oh, that was great.
Oh, he's gonna beat me up for that one. You know that, right?
Perfectly.
I'm going to take that clip and cut it out and send it to him.
Send it to him.
Absolutely nobody said anything to deny it. Yeah, we could all see Jeff doing that. Yeah.
Oh, God. So, this is like no surprise.
No.
All right. This is what we've all been waiting to see, that someone was going to put apps on the iPhone that Apple really doesn't want there or doesn't approve of. And the EU is getting credit for it.
I think it's more so Apple doesn't want to get the revenue, the 30% tag, and they don't want to generate any revenue from that source. And I think that's really the issue behind not having the that type of application on the App Store.
Do they get that much off on the
No, they
alternate
don't.
store? I don't think so.
It's what they alt store, AI store.
Yeah.
Right. So, but look, we all know, and there was, I'm sorry, I don't think it was Ken, maybe it was Ken Ray this morning was talking about this and pointed out that there's a little bit of hypocrisy here going on because of some of the music that's on the Apple Music, or is on Apple Music, that is borderline pornographic, and yet, Apple happily hosts that.
Get the explicit
And
rating.
so, sorry, Dave?
They get the explicit rating for any
Right.
types of songs.
Right. And so, and Ken's not wrong.
Right. I agree.
But that's one thing. I think, I think there's a different standard video to just audio. And I don't know. I don't know if there'll be any backlash on this. The article has, of course, Apple has said they'd rather not have this, essentially. And Tim Sweeney has his comments you can read, and if you think they're worth anything, I don't know. Brian?
Yeah, the one thing that was surprising, I thought, was that it took a year for this to happen. And some of the other items, Nintendo emulators, Fortnite, things like that, appeared a lot quicker. I would have thought it maybe would have been sooner.
That's an interesting point.
I liked that in the article, the author is a 9 to 5 Mac article, says you can download this and browse pornography as easy as downloading Epic's Fortnite or Delta, which to me sort of feels like a slam back at Epic in some ways.
Marty, I hadn't thought about it in exactly that way. But they're not wrong, and Epic is a big reason that this is there now. I mean, I don't expect anybody here to be prudish or anything, but I mean, does this seem like a good idea to have this kind of thing potentially accessible on an iPhone?
Well, I guess
you can. It's not like, from what I've heard, it's that hard to get porn off on your iPhone anyway.
I was going to say that, yeah.
From what I've heard.
Have you heard of Safari?
Yeah.
Have you heard of surfing privately using Firefox Focus? You could.
You seem to know a lot about this, Dave.
No, I'm just saying that browser's available because it's private browsing. And I use that for the times I'm searching for things I can't stand, and all of a sudden I search for something, and then all of a sudden I'm getting ads for everything. I mean, that's the reason why I use Firefox Focus. But
I see.
But you can, I mean, I agree with you on that. But I mean, what's to stop anybody using an iPhone to browse porn sites?
Dave, educate me a little bit. I am not familiar with Firefox Focus, and from what you said, is that like private browsing in Google or Safari?
It's a browser, Mozilla Firefox, obviously, and basically what it is it's on iOS or iPadOS, and what it does is it automatically puts you in private mode. It's not like in any other browser where you have to go to private mode to get that. I mean, granted, it's going to still know your IP address, and that's not going to be private. You never can block that, but it's a browser that allows anybody to browse privately, wherever they're going. It's not keeping their tracks, and then you can delete it and it erases it once you're done. So then there's no tracks at all of where you've been using that browser.
Okay. Well, I know Vivaldi on the Mac would it gives you, I forget what the exact term is, but basically it's private browsing where it's not remembering anything. But it sounds like what you're describing is that takes it a little farther.
Yes.
So interesting. I did not know about that.
I'll put a link in the chat.
Yeah, please do. Please do. This is the third week in a row that we have a somewhat innovative Severance promotion. If you are a fan of the show, or if you're familiar, and I know, Webb, you're still getting into it, or it's on your to-do list.
I will get into it. So
yeah, or else.
Yeah.
The UUR is a book that is referenced in Severance, and it wasn't a real book. Well, at least it wasn't until now. And so now, it is. Marty?
Yeah, I just recently got into Severance, still getting to the end of the first season, and thought there's got to be somebody selling something on Amazon related to this. So I typed in Severance, and about 3 or 4 weeks ago, you could buy what looked like a copy of the UUR on Amazon. And so when I saw this announcement, I went back to Amazon and I can't find that anymore. So I don't know if Apple, with their intent to come out with this, because this is available through the Apple bookstore. I downloaded the book.
That's free.
Right before the show, and also downloaded the audio. It's free of charge. So you can still on Amazon find like Lumen coffee mugs and other things there, but you can't find anything related to the UUR anymore. So
That's interesting. Little copyright takedown action.
Good, Ben.
Brian?
Yeah, I noticed, the book you can either get in the ebook or you can get it in the audiobook. And if you get the audiobook, it's read by the author, aka the actor who plays the character on the show. And it's hilarious. It's so funny. And when you get to the part that compares people and bees, I was laughing so hard on the way home from work listening to it.
Okay, I knew that from the article. I knew these were both available. I have not partaken of them, so but it sounds like it's worth the download.
Yeah.
Anybody else? Well, how many people here are into Severance at all?
I have not yet finished the first season.
I need to catch up on the second season. I haven't had a chance.
Okay. Yeah, I'm sort of in that shape too, Dave. But yeah, I'm looking forward to it. Barry says in the chat room, someday I may watch Severance. Okay. On the other hand, Barry was the one that for the previous story said, well, one more incentive to leave the U.S. and immigrate back to the old world. So we know where Barry's priorities are. Visit MacVoices.com for show notes and to connect with Chuck on social media. Get involved in our Facebook group or like our Facebook page, and get more out of your Apple tech with Mac Voices Magazine, free on Flipboard and on the web. And if you find value in it all, consider supporting us through either our Patreon campaign at patreon.com/MacVoices, or by making a one-time donation via the PayPal link on our front page and in the show notes of each episode. You will join these fine people who help bring you Mac Voices. Advertising handled by Backbeat Media at backbeatmedia.com. Bandwidth provided by CashFly at cashfly.com.